of Gaudapadacharya ji, and in the first Karika, Acharya Gaudapadacharya ji says, Bahish prajno vibhur vishvo hyanta prajnastu taijasaha gana prajnastatha prajna eka eva tridha smrutaha. So, the purpose of the Karikas is to shed light on what is presented, and the purpose of a bhashya is to have a detailed explanation. But Karika is an ever reminder of the message presented by the Upanishad, the mantra, and on top of that, the main purpose is to help facilitate some sadhanas which are not explicitly mentioned in Upanishad, just because of the nature of the subject matter and the qualifications required for a student to acquire this knowledge of Upanishad. It is assumed that the student is already great and prepared. Thus, the brevity of the subject matter presented only in 12 mantras. But here we have voluminous portion of Gaudapadacharya ji's composition, where he brings to our attention the purpose behind these 12 mantras and how to help facilitate the knowledge in us. So in this Karika, he is simply repeating, but the repetition over here is to bring this idea eka eva tridha smrutaha. The sadhana is in the waking state, distance from the waker. In the dream state, learn to see the dream as a projection. And in the deep sleep state, even the experience of the void, it is still known. So the three states, the waking state experience, the dream state experience, the deep sleep experience, it has to be continuously reminded to us that these are distinct experiences happening in me, and I am the witness. I am Eka. It is not that I, the waker, is completely different than I, the dreamer. I, the waker, I, the dreamer, I, the sleeper. This Vishwa Taijas Prajna, I am one. And it is from that standpoint, the experience of these is known, and it is known to me. So I, the knower, am distinct. That is a big sadhana presented over here by Gaudapadacharya ji. Bahish prajno vibhuhu vishvo hyanta prajnastu taijasaha ghana prajnastatha prajna eka eva tridha smruta. We saw that. Then we did the second Karika, the Dakshinakshi mukhe vishvaha manasyantastu taijasaha akashe cha hridi prajnaha tridha dehe vyavastitaha. The location where the consciousness is transacted, where the consciousness transact from the counter where it transacts, is enumerated over here. The Dakshinakshi mukhe vishvaha. This Vishva, the experience of the waking state, the Vishva happens in the Dakshinakshi, the right eye. The right eye is a Surya Nadi, it is considered to be much stronger than Chandra Nadi, the left eye. Gurudev in his commentary also mentions that an ophthalmologist and optometrist, they know that there is an inherent strength of the right eye over the left eye. And the strength over here, what is enumerated is, what is presented is the power of consciousness which expresses itself as the knowledge that takes place of the waking state. It is much more powerful, and the waker is only a waker of all senses of perception. It is the sense of sight which is the strongest, and the sense, this eyesight, even though the hearing and the touch are subtler, and then the taste and the smell are grosser, this sight which is between the five senses, this sense of sight is the strongest when it leaves a mark of experience of the waking state. The visual effect brought about by the sense of perception of the sight is the strongest in terms of creating identification with the objective reality. Thus, the presence of consciousness over here is taken in the waking state as the right eye. Manasyantastu Taijasaha, and the Taijasa which is talked about, Manaha Antastu, it is in the very fertile fields of the mind where the entire dream world is projected. Without the screen of the mind, there would be no projection. So the mind is taken as a locus where consciousness expresses itself. Akashe cha hridi prajnaha, the deep sleeper, the waking state folds itself, the dream state when it folds itself, and when the waker is resolved into the dreamer, and the dreamer when is resolved into the deep sleeper, the deep sleeper exists in the very cave of the intellect, the very inner core of the heart, Akashe Hridi, in the space of the heart over here. That is prajnaha, and tridha dehe vyavastitaha. All these three abide in the body in these three places, because the instrument of BMI is where the experience is taken. The entire Upanishad, the entire Mandukya Upanishad is only taking the experience of the human being. This is why this is very important. And Shankaracharya ji, in his commentary about this Karika, he brings a very important point, that in the waking state, the eye, even though it is open, the seeing is done by the mind. But even if the eye is open, the mind, if it is unavailable due to some preoccupation of the mind, the waking state becomes a dream state. So he brings a very important point, that both the waking state and the dream state are in essence one. It is only a projection. One is the external projection, the other is an internal projection. Nonetheless, they are both projections. This is a very important point. We discussed this, and this over here, he uses this, that Dakshina Akshi Gataha Rupam Društva Nimilata Akshaha Deva Smaran Manasi Anta Swapna Iva Tadeva Vasana Rupa Abhivyaktam Pashyati Tatha Atra Tatha Swapne Ataha Manasi Antastu Taijasaha Api Vishva Eva. Both the Taijasa and Vishwa, they are both Manasi Antastu, they are both nothing but in the mind the projection. When the eyes are closed, the mind projects. Forget about the eyes being closed. Even if the eyes open, a person can daydream. It is as though the eyes are closed. So over here it is both of them is considered to be this Taijas and Vishwa. Over here is a very, very important point. He brings this out, and this will be discussed at great length in the upcoming Karikas. Then all the different doubts he brings up, that all these things which are happening, the prana shakti which is talked about, how is it that when the dreamer folds, that the pranas are completely suspended? So he makes a distinction that the pranas of the body is very different than compared to the prana shakti, because of which projection takes place, and the prana shakti because of which the physical body's pranas are functioning. The physical body is a locus where the jiva utilizes this equipment to transact. But when the jiva disconnects from the waking state, the body lies over there, and in that body, in the mind, the projection is there, so the pranas of the body continue. The dream, when it is also suspended, the physical body is there, the subtle body suspended, and the karana avastha over there, the karana sharir, the causal body, in the subtle, in the gross, keeps the entire equipment, but at the same time there is no identification, because there is no equipment to identify with. To identify, I require an equipment. So the equipment itself, namely the mind and the intellect, that is not there. So ahankar is not there, and it is the ahankar, the ego, which creates the identification. Ego identified with the body says my body. Ego identified with the mind says I am emotional. Ego identified with the intellect says I am smart, I am not smart. So the ego identification is not generated, and in the absence of the generation of the this egocentric personality, there is nobody to own up. But the pranas continue because the jivatva is held by the prana shakti which keeps the entire causal body alone, and that is a point that he makes. Prana bandhanam hi somya manaha. That is from Chandogya Upanishad, this Shruti is taken, and Shankaracharya ji explains what that is, what a prana bandhana is. That prana bandhana is none other than the identification created, and that identification alone gives the waker, the dreamer, and the deep sleeper. Continuing, Karika number 3. Vishvo hi stula bhuk nityam Taijasa pravivikta bhuk Ananda bhuk tatha pragnaha Tridha bhogam nibodhata. Vishvo hi sthula bhuk nityam. Who is this waker? Waker is a sthula bhuk. He nityam sthula bhuk. He is ever eternally enjoying the world of gross manifested reality, that is Vishwa. He is waker. Why does he repeat this? There is a sadhana in here. Sadhana is for us to practice the awareness that I am the enjoyer of the waking state. And if I am the enjoyer is very different than the world enjoyed. And that is Tridha bhogam nibodhata. You understand Tridha in all these three places, it is the experience which is uniting. So, I am the experiencer. Vishvo hi sthula bhuk nityam. This has to be continuously invoked. And when we invoke this, we will learn to see the ephemeral nature of the world of pluralistic existence. Then the experience will not be taken as real. Right now, my experience in the waking state is so profound because I have not separated myself as the experiencer and the object experienced. Over here he uses the word nityam, which is very important. Waker is eternally enjoying the world of objective reality. The eternal world is extremely important because that is who we are. We are eternally in the waking state enjoying the world of objects. And if I am the enjoyer of the objects, I am other than the objects enjoyed. I am much greater than that. I am the subject experiencing the objects experienced. So the Triputi is what is brought out over here. The enjoyer, the enjoyed, and the experience. And eternally these three are existing. But we in our unintelligent living have mixed up the three into one without any thought process, an average person, a waker with extreme attachment to the waking state, ever takes this whole thing to be real. So this is what he is bringing out over here. Pravivikta book, Tejas of Pravivikta book. Over here, who is this dreamer? Pravivikta book, the Pravivikta subtle book, enjoyment, the experience which is left behind by acting upon the world of dream objects. Even the dream objects, the dream experience, and the dream experiencer, all three of them are distinct. And the distinct dreamer, the dream object, and the dream experience, what is common over here is I am the subject who is experiencing, and if I'm experiencing, what is experienced is other than me. Then Ananda book tatha prajnaha. This prajnaha is Ananda book. He is the enjoyer of the Anand. He is the enjoyer of void. Nonetheless, void is still experienced. So, this way, both of them are, not both, all three of them are nothing but tridha bhogam nibodhatah. You understand tridha, the three, to be experience. And if it is an experience, I am the experiencer. And if it is an experience, it is time bound. An experience is always time bound entity. And if it is a time bound entity, it has no absolute reality. It has no absolute presence. This is what is to be gathered from this. The same thing he repeats in the next shloka from the standpoint of the objects. This one is from the standpoint of experience. Now he repeats it from the standpoint of objects. Sthulam tarpayate vishvam.
Sthulam tarpayate vishvam.
Praviviktam tu taijasam.
Praviviktam tu taijasam.
Anandascha tatha prajnam.
Anandascha tatha prajnam.
Tridha truptim nibodhata.
Tridha truptim nibodhata.
So, tridha, threefold, truptim, the bliss, nibodhata, you come to know in all these three the different types of bliss. The objects are the one which are capable of generating this bliss. So how? Sthulam tarpayate vishvam. The sthula objects, the gross objects, tarpayate. This tarpanam over here is a very technical language of Shastra. We do tarpanam as an offering. So the objects offer themselves to the waker. And when the objects offer themselves to the waker, what is left behind is the experience of joy. Some joy is arrived. That is the offering of the objects. The objects leave behind some joy. Praviviktam tu taijasa. The subtle objects also do the tarpanam to the dreamer. They are continuously offering joy to the dreamer. And anandascha tatha prajnam, and in the deep sleep state, it is nothing but the tarpanam of void, and that void is what is generating the experience of shunya. Kaschidna maya anubhuyate. I have not experienced anything. When the deep sleeper wakes up and says, I had a good night's sleep, sukhena maya nidra anubhuyate. I experienced a very good sleep. What is that very good sleep? It is the tarpanam of the deep sleep state offering this. So over here, all the three types of the gross object satisfies the waker, does the tarpanam to the waker. The subtle objects do its tarpanam to the dreamer, and in the deep sleep the same thing. So what is important over here is not the objects, it is me. I become very important, because if I am not there, who are the objects going to do the tarpanam to? So I become very important. It is not, ego is not talked about over here. What is talked about I is I the awareness. It is to I the awareness the waking reality does tarpanam to. But in my avidya, I don't realize that it is to me the objective reality is doing tarpanam to. I own up the equipment, and then as an egocentric personality, I criticize the objective experience. I am not happy, I am not satisfied. All that only comes from this ego. But to the absolute awareness, when the objects arrive, it is ever fulfilled. So that absolute consciousness peeping through the apertures of the waking equipment, it is always fulfilled. So the tarpanam doesn't do anything, but the objective reality is created. The Vishnu Maya is a sport. So the awareness accepts the tarpanam as its privilege. That's all. Accepts the arrival of the objective bliss as a privilege. And it is looked at it, whatever arrives, it arrives. We analyze the tarpanam as good and bad. We analyze it, oh, this is joy, this is sorrow. But to awareness, it is an experience which is arriving. That is all. So in both of these, bliss is an experience. In the other one, the experience of the three states is also an experience. So the experience of the three states, if we look for bliss, bliss is always there to begin with, but the objects will do their unique tarpanam. Objects will do their unique offering to the waker. The objects will do their unique offering to the dreamer. We have no control over the dream state. I cannot, when I go to bed, I cannot say I am only going to dream about India. No, we have no control over it. In the waking state, the same way. Today I am only going to have these experiences. It's not going to work that way. We are going to have to accept the day for what it is, and we are going to have to accept the objective experiences for what they are. The integral portion of this karika brings to our attention that I am experiencer of the bliss. And if I am the experiencer of even the bliss of the waking state, bliss of the dream state, I am much more than bliss. You can rename this trupti. I label trupti as bliss, or you can call it joy if you want to call the absolute bliss of consciousness as bliss. You can rename it, it's okay. What is meant by truptim over here is some joy, some satisfaction, that's all. Now, continuing, next one. Trisudhamasu yadbhojyam bhokta yascha prakirtitah vedai tadubhayam yastu sabujjano na lipyate. Oh, sorry. Sabunjano na lipyate. Now, this karika is what is summarizing the first two and presenting a proper understanding of sadhana, which I talked about. So this karika says, Trishu dhamasu yad bhojyam. Trishu dhamasu, he is using these words actually from Kaivalya Upanishad. Trishu dhamasu yad bhoktam bhokta bhogasya yad bhave tebhyo vilakshana sakshi chinmatroham sadashivaha. Oh, the same idea from Kaivalya Upanishad is brought by Gaudapadacharya ji, and he is explaining over here. He is saying Trishu dhamasu yad bhojyam. In the three dham, the three cities, the three places, the three states of experience, the waking, the dream, the deep sleep, yat, whatever, bhojyam, to be enjoyed, whatever is enjoyed or to be enjoyed, bhokta yascha prakirtitah, bhokta, to the enjoyer, yascha prakirtitah, the subtle and the gross objects which leave the experiences, the experiencer, when they experience the objects, veda tad ubhayam yastu, that person over here come to know ubhayam, both. What both? The experiencer and the objects experienced, both. When it is known that the objects which are experienced and the experience, ubhaya, known, it is known to me, and I am, when I know this, when I know that these objects are known to me, the experience is known to me, and I am distinct from both of them, then the both of them cannot perturb me, because I realize I am different from them. That saha, the one who knows that, bhunjamana api, even though experiencing all this, nalipyate, the person is not perturbed, is not disturbed, is not affected. It is like a person when they go to see a movie and when they realize, when we know that it is only a movie that I am watching and it is only a movie experience, then whatever tragedy unfolds in the movie, I am not affected by it. I know it is a movie. In the same way, when the person over here knows that these are objects and these objects leave behind experiences, and these experiences and this object, I am other than that, then the whole world is seen as a movie. And the world cannot affect me, the observer. Me, the Sakshi. Me, the witness. Me, the awareness consciousness. Me, the awareness consciousness is completely distinct from the objects and the experience that they leave behind. So these three karika, Shankaracharya ji, his bhashya, he says the exact same thing. So if I say that I am that experience or that object is mine, that is called the womb of suffering. The womb of suffering starts from when I identify with the experience or the experienced object. But if I am seen apart from those two, it doesn't leave behind any type of tadatmyam, it doesn't leave behind any type of trace of attachment. Then I am ever aware that I am consciousness. So that is the sadhana to be practiced. The sadhana of witnesshood is to be practiced. This is presented in this karika. Now the sixth karika. Prabhava sarva bhavanam satam iti vinishchayah sarvam janayati pranah chetom shun purushah pruthak. This is also a very important karika. This karika will be elaborated in the third chapter. This is very important because the last mantra that we saw, the sixth mantra, this karika dwells upon that mantra, and the concept of creation is brought about. See, whenever there is a student and the student wants to learn, the teacher in the Upanishadic Vidya is the knower of the truth. The teacher has complete abidance in truth and nothing but the truth. And the very abidance in the truth, for that teacher, there is no creation. For that teacher, there is no projection of world. The mithyatva of Jagat is established in the abidance of truth. The unreal nature of the world is ascertained in the abidance of the teacher's presence. But the student doesn't have that. So, for the teacher who has completely negated creation, there is no creation. But the student is only in creation. The student doesn't know that he is realized. The teacher has to make him realize that he is realized. And to make that student realize that he is realized, the concept of creation has to be brought. Creation is used as a tool to facilitate knowledge. And thus, in the sixth mantra, when it is said, Esha Sarveshwara, Esha Sarvagnya, Esho Antaryami, Esha Yoni, Sarvasya Prabhava Apyayau Hi Bhutanam, in the sixth mantra, this Karika is an elaboration on the subject matter of creation. So now we have to take creation. What is creation? Over here in this Karika, it is said, Prabhava Sarva Bhavanam. Sarva Bhavanam. Of all objects, of all objects, Prabhava, the manifestation of them, the emergence of all the objects, Vinishchayaha, very firmly it is ascertained, it is known, Satamiti, that they arrive from truth. Truth is the source of the origin of all objective reality. Creation is nothing but a projection on truth. Without truth, projection cannot exist. Now, why is creation a projection? We went through this discussion in the previous Upanishad that mithyatva of Jagat, it is a projection because there is no absolute truth in the objective reality. The objective reality is time bound. Number one, the objects are subjected to time. In time, objects arrive, and in time, the objects have to depart. So there is an arrival and departure, continuous flow of objects is there. If this flow of objects is there, where is this flow? What is the support of the flow? That is when we determine that the support of the flow has to be a permanent thing. It cannot arrive and it cannot depart. It has to facilitate arrival and departure. So the support is eternal. The support is truth. And we call the support truth because it is ever present. But the world, we cannot call it, it is not that if we know truth is something which is ever present in all three periods of time. So, the opposite of truth, untruth, whatever you want to call it, would be that which is never present. That is like the horn on my heads, which are never there. They never were there, they are not, and they never will be. So that is completely anrutam. It is absolutely false. But the world is not absolutely false, because there is an experience of the world. The world is known, the world is experienced, and the experience is a time-bound experience. And because it is a time-bound experience, it cannot be absolutely truth. But because it is experience, I also cannot say that it is not there. It is there, it is experienced. So how do you categorize it? So the categorization of the projection is mithya. It is projection. It is maya. It is prakriti. It is mula vidya. It is avyakta, avyaktam. It is avyakruta. It is paramesha shakti. All these names are there. This concept, you please understand it clearly. It will be required to understand this mithyatva of Maya, or the illusory nature of creation. Having said that, now this over here, this Karika says, Prabhava sarva bhavanam satam iti vinishchayah. All the emergence of objects is from Sat, from truth. Sarvam janayati pranaha. Pranaha sarvam janayati. What is meant over here is sarvam jada janayati. The jada padarth is all created. Now please don't think that the insentient world of objects, just objective reality of the waking state, even the jada of the dream state, okay, it is a subtle jada experience. if I may use such words. Dream is subtle experience, but in the dream state objects are experienced. And what kind of objects? Those are sthula objects, isn't it? Gross objects. Even though in the subtle state, yet it is a objective reality. So the emergence of the jadavastu in the waking state and the emergence of the emergence of objects in the dream state, all of them are pranaha sarvam janayati. The power, consciousness is there. Cheta amshu purusha pruthak pruthak. And the amshu, the very rays of consciousness, when it is sprinkled at the universal level, if the subtle body is there, all the living beings come alive because of the power of the consciousness. So the world of the living beings are created because the amshu, portion of consciousness is reflected in the reflective medium in all beings, so all beings come alive. So the world of matter arises from consciousness, the world of living beings arise from consciousness. Now there is something very unique which is mentioned over here, which is to be extracted. If I make a clay pot from clay, if I make a clay saucer from a clay, if I make a clay ladle from a clay, if I make a clay spoon from a clay, the clay saucer, the clay pot, the clay ladle, the clay spoon already exists in the clay. They are not apart from the clay. So, it is the clay itself rising as the clay pot. So, have I created anything new? No. So, what is implied over here is something very unique to Mandukya, that in creation nothing new can be created. And that is called Satkaryavad. That is what this Karika brings out. That is why he uses Satam iti Vinishchayaha. This is very unique to Mandukya Upanishad. It is called Satkaryavad. Everything is Sat, Sat, Sat. Om iti etad idagam sarvam. How did it come from? Here, Satkaryavad. This is very powerful point, that in creation nothing original is created, nothing new is created. This is an amazing understanding. We think of creation as something new I am creating. Someone may say, I have created a new generation of phone. It was already there. Nothing new can be created in this creation. And if nothing, all of creation is potential existence suspended in a seed form. When the time is right, it will come out. That is all. So when I look at the creation, there is nothing new. A creation itself is Sat. Sat Karyam. That Sat Karyavad is over here talked about as Maya, Prakriti, Mula Vidya, Vyaktam, all those things what we are talking about. It is modification of truth and truth and truth and truth alone. There is nothing else. It is an appearance of the truth, and the truth alone can be that nothing unique is there in this creation. Thus, that mantra says, Esha Sarveshwaraha. That is the Satkaryavad. The truth is what? That absolute is Esha Sarveshwaraha. He is everything. Esha Sarvagnya. He is created out of himself. In him, he is all knower. He's Sarvagnya because there is nothing new that is being created. He is ever aware of the fact what is coming out and what is being projected. He is Sarvagnya. Eshaha Antaryami. That gold is the Antaryami of gold ornament. The clay is the Antaryami of the clay pot, the clay ladle, the clay spoon. Brahman is the Antaryami of the whole world of this mass presence of awareness alone is Antaryami. Esha Sarvasya Prabhava Apyayau Yoni. It is a womb, yoni, of emergence and disappearance of everything, Sarva Bhutanam, of all beings. And thus, over here, Gaudapadacharya ji takes that mantra, but he says, Prabhava Sarva Bhavanam Satam iti Vinishchayaha. The Satam iti Vinishchayaha is Sat Karyavad. That in creation, nothing is new. In creation, everything is nothing but absolute. So, remember the teacher uses the creation as a tool to negate everything. And using the creation to help the student realize that he is already realized, because there is nothing other than him. But there is some Brahma out of avidya, and that is to be removed. And the avidya, when it is removed, the ignorance when it is removed, truth is known. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhaved. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.